And you're live.
I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask everybody, starting with Robin, to state your name for the record.
Robin Martell, the IDA.
Kevin Zander, legal counsel for the IDA.
Joe Bazowski, IDA.
Nicole Hastings, board member, IDA. Becky Ryan, IDA.
Mark Dad, IDA.
Doug Burwanger, IDA.
Jim Rachowski, IDA board member.
Jim Beers, IDA staff.
Jennifer Tishka, IDA.
Scott Gardner, IDA staff.
All right, we've been furnished with a copy of the minutes of the April 13th meeting. I'll ask you to look at them briefly, and if nobody has any questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we also have our financial report, which I imagine is for 2 months. And I'll ask Robin to give us any highlights she thinks are appropriate.
Okay, yeah, it was for 2 months, so the page on the front was for May. And we did have some fees earned. Interest on CDs came in May, so it does show quite a bit there. Our expenses were the typical expense for the month. We had the lease expense, conference and training for the IDA annual meeting. And we ended up the month with $2,418,330 combined cash minus CDs in the bank. And on the next page over is June. And yes, at the top at the corner it does say WCDAC, but it was sort of put the wrong sheet of paper in there. But this is the IDA. I apologize for that. But yeah, so we didn't have as much, we didn't have fees earned, and we didn't have the CD interest in June. Just had a little bit of bank interest. We did get our management fees from both the BAC and the business center. Normal expenses for the month, and we ended up the month with $176,638 in cash and $2,255,385 in CDs. And then on the next page is our budget, which shows where we are to date, and we're 50% of the way through the year, so that's the way to judge how we're doing as far as our expenses and revenues.
Any questions or discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the statements as submitted.
Who was that stated?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item in our package is the summary of the Industrial Development Agency fee policy. And I'll give everybody a moment to look at that. And I'll ask Jim, is there any highlight or anything, any change at all?
Yeah, the policy was previously approved by the board with the exception of an amendment that we put in for the legal fees, which are the responsibility of a project developer. So that was the addition that we made that we thought would require your authorization. There's one more change that just discussed with council. What we have as a policy is that before we issue the sales tax exemption letter to project people, we ask them to give us 20% of our 1% total project cost fee. And we wanted to replicate that also for the legal fees that the developer would be responsible for. So on the next page where the two bar tables are, there's mention of 1/4 of the legal fee is due. We would like to amend that to read 20%. So it matches the IDA requested 20%. I think this helps with project developers that we're working with to give an idea from what the fees are going to be, what it's going to cost, so there's no surprises.
Is this similar how other IDAs
Yes, it is.
Probably less expensive.
But the reason we decided for the 20% was that, we've been hung on a couple projects where we've gone through and approved it, and then the project just didn't go. And, so we have some costs that we had to eat, or we don't want to do that, so that's the reason for the change.
Yeah, Jim, I'm happy to address the question in terms of the schedule. These are comparable and in fact lower within some IDAs. This is similar standard to what Amherst used. It's lower than Erie County, it's lower than Niagara.
I guess we're looking for a motion with the amendment to change the legal portion of it to 20% versus 25%.
A separate motion or just?
No, just
approval?
all one.
All right.
Just a note that change.
All right, do I have such a motion to approve the agency fee policy as set forth?
Absolutely.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jim, would you take care of the next item, 4A?
Yeah, in your packet, you will see a kind of a synopsis of a business plan. The IDA owns 2.65 acres of land over in the village of Perry. It's on the corner of Camp Road and Route 28. It's kind of a gateway property that enters into the village. So we've been a little on the picky side of who we might sell that to. I've been contacted by several businesses that wanted to do something that was not very visually pleasing, a lot of junk laying around and things of that nature, which is something obviously the village does not want to see. So I was approached by this young lady who works as a special ed education teacher at BOCES, who has a disabled son who just turned 18, and she was explaining to me that there really aren't any programs for 18-year-olds that age out of the schools other than some of the ARC workshop things, which struggle at best. So she has proposed to kind of set up a small little coffee shop, garden shop, where these young people that have aged out of the school programs can come in and learn some certain job skills. And they will be supervised by 3 staff people according to this. She wants to utilize in the coffee shop a lot of locally produced items and make goods. She wants to source a lot of produce and stuff because they're going to put garden packs together, similar to like a co-op would for the vegetables and the produce. And she hasn't put this not-for-profit together yet. So I told her that I would check the temperature of the board to see if that would be something that would be agreeable for us to look at for the use of that property. Right now, it's zoned M1 manufacturing. I did explain to this individual that we have about $85,000 invested in the property at this point, which includes the purchase price survey, appraisal, environmental assessment, and some legal costs that we had in terms of getting ownership of it. And that didn't seem to concern them too much. We were just trying to kind of cover our costs of the property. So I told her I would bring it in and see what the board thought about it, and if it's something that we should spend a little more time on. She obviously is a not-for-profit, would not be eligible for any IDA incentives. But it kind of fills a niche, according to her, in the community where these types of services are not available for people with young people with disabilities that have aged out of the school system.
Jim, that piece didn't hold much weight for any type of industry that was interested in it.
I had a lot of metal bangers that wanted to come in, fab shops and things like that. They wanted to set up there. We did have the one vendor from Lexington State Park that talked about maybe wanting to look at it for building a warehouse and online sales and that sort of thing. They have not been back, and I have not heard from them in about a year and a half. So, you know, a lot of, I had a tree landscaping business contact me about it, and just nothing really that we were kind of
Nothing that inviting.
visioning, and
I'm surprised it's that, but that's what it is.
I did, by the way, run this concept, or this young lady did run the concept by the mayor, and he thought it would be an appropriate use of the property as well.
She just wants to buy it.
He's one of them.
I'm a little confused. What is the building we see?
That's the concept of what they would like to build for the coffee shop and a co-op.
You don't have to tell them, but that's in the town of Castor, but you have the lowest tax rate in Wyoming County.
I did neglect to say that. I apologize, Joe.
And apologies.
Can they put a drive-through coffee lane in there somewhere? Because I hear Perry needs a drive-through.
Yeah, there's not one drive-through business in town.
I've heard that. They need it.
Yeah, I certainly can suggest that.
They're gonna do a can redemption too, it says.
Yeah. They're trying to teach the young people how to count, but I don't know how you keep that kind of clean, right?
This is something that carry on year round, right?
Too much.
Yeah.
Although if you've been to the one redemption place in the
That's
Tractor Supply Plaza,
Oh, okay, that one.
that place is spotless.
They do amazing. I have them.
What's the, do you have a selling price for it? They were just at 85.
I would just say, yeah, I would suggest that we just try to get our money out of it.
Seems small for manufacturing space.
Yeah.
60 hours. We're talking about garage or something.
I should also mention that it's right next to already an existing ARC home.
They want to build a coffee shop or small restaurant, and some type of building, where they can house people, or just have it like a learning station,
Just to learn job skills, and
or just get pretty big.
no, I don't think they can, it's only 2.65 acres.
Yeah. Or I mean, the amount of people, how much do you need for that?
Well, she
school?
talked about 3 employees, and I don't know how many staff members is what she calls the folks with the disabilities.
I guess what I was getting at is there room, if they're gonna have 125 students, I don't know.
I
It's gonna
don't,
get big, that's what I'm looking at.
yeah, I don't see the numbers being that big.
What kind of budget did you anticipate for that? She's going to have to raise quite a bit of money, right?
Yeah, she is.
Looks like we're looking at a tax exempt,
She didn't put any numbers
No,
in there.
But she's not asking for anything either. She
Right,
wants
it's
to-
just the sale of
She's
land.
not looking for any financing or anything, she's
I
been
guess
looking for a parcel.
The only risk perhaps would be she ties it up in contract and can't come up with a rate.
looking at it.
What'd you say, Tom?
The only risk would be she would tie it up in a contract and she can't come up with money. That
Yes.
would be the risk. But it's not, it's been for sale for how long?
2018.
There's always things that realtors can do that. Make sure there's a time limit on that.
Well, that's what I was wondering too, is like if we sell her the land and then she decides not to do this project, it's no longer in our hands. We wouldn't have a say in it at that point, once the
Good point.
sale goes through,
Very good point.
then she can do it.
We can write it up any way we want.
Yeah, okay,
So
We
we
have
have
a
a
reverter,
But
we
you-
have a reverter if they don't develop there.
yeah, and then it comes back to us, for
Yeah.
the
Yes.
sale price
Is there
or
time
something
to
like that.
And what she wants to do is also probably a tax exempt parcel. Got any room for that in arcade, Mr. Boyd?
It's quite sales tax. No.
Well, I think maybe we should look at a proposed contract, so we are protected before we actually approve the contract.
Yeah.
And you see, she needs a lawyer, so.
Yeah, I'm only checking the temperature today.
Yeah.
I'm not working towards contract or anything like that.
I think exactly what this young lady said. but you gotta have an idea of what's going on there. And if it doesn't work, then they own the property, then anything can happen.
How about if we have a motion to state we're favorably disposed to do this, but contingent upon appropriate contracts?
You gotta make a
Something
motion,
favorable.
right? I'll second it.
Do you need a motion?
Sure, just for the record.
Okay.
I like your ideas, and I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd just like to keep her encouraged that we're not turning her down.
No, that
For
is,
sure.
I think that's perfect.
It's a pretty building.
It is.
It's very welcoming.
Let her know that there would be restrictions such as that, you know, going into it, she would have to. Right. Put her ducks in order quickly, yeah.
How about 4B, Jim?
4B, we were just kind of looking at the calendar, and next year will be 50 years that the Wyoming County IDA has been in existence. And we were wondering if the board had any appetite to do anything in recognition of that, other than, you know, we could do some press releases and things of that nature, but I guess we're just seeking out any thoughts or ideas on how to recognize that.
I'm all in favor. I was there.
That's right. Wow.
My father and I set it up.
Maybe a reception, because that would put the word out to people too, as far as it's like advertising for us too. And some sort of reception for the public.
Highlight some of the projects that
Yeah.
made a difference.
Absolutely.
Would you be up to any videos about the history
I
or
think that-
projects or community involvement?
Absolutely.
I figured that's what we would put on the website, is a big thing on there as far as.
But if we had a reception, we could have a rolling.
And then how about a tagline on your logo for 50th? Anything like that? Just
Absolutely.
We only consult with Scott. He's the expert.
Yes.
He's the party planner.
The marketing guy.
Got it up.
Housekeeping. It's just 2.65 acres. Could it possibly be an area where you could build a supercenter drugstore outlet? People come from all over to see that. Either Rockville business, like maybe a supercenter drugstore outlet, anything for a thriving business. Maybe you could keep that in mind. Just a comment or question.
Okay.
We can give you a pilot for a few years in the town of Cape.
All right, Jim, do you have a report?
I do. Just quickly, I have met with the representatives of Crestline on 3 different occasions since we last met. They are forming a very large project with Cummins Engines out of Jamestown, in which they're going to be supplying the alternators and electronic components for the zero or near zero emission engines that Cummins is manufacturing. Cummins is a huge manufacturing operation, and this is going to present Crestline with a great opportunity to partner with them. So one of the things they're proposing is they have to do some significant capital improvements in the building. Some of the paint, for example, is peeling on the ceiling, which isn't going to suit the folks who come in very well. They also need to put in a new testing lab. They're going to need to do automated equipment and things of that nature. Overall, it is improvements within the existing facility, so there really isn't anything the IDA could do, other than I led them down the path of Empire State Development and New York State Office of Community Renewal. And I arranged to have the state representatives come in and meet with Crestline. So they're pursuing 2 grant applications through the state to get this project moving forward, which is targeted to start in the 2nd quarter of 2024. So it's good news, good stable moves for Crestline, and they're going to continue to help strengthen their position there. So
Has anybody been in that Cummings plant?
I have not.
I've been in there dozens and dozens of times when I drove truck and Pioneer Transport. Probably covers about 30 to 40 acres, just for building.
Wow.
You can eat off the floor. There's a train that goes all around the plant that brings the shuttles. And we used to haul engines, big diesel engines out, and they loaded them. And whenever you took them, they had somebody there to unload them. And they nailed them to the floor. They were on big wood skids. Unbelievable. And there's doors, there's probably 10 going out doors, and 10 receiving, shipping doors, and 10 receiving. Unbelievable. All concrete, sits down in a little valley. It's just outside of Jamestown.
I heard it's about like 1 million square feet of building.
Well, whatever. I'm just, when you come over the hill and look down in the valley, it looks like there's about 40 acres under the roof. Unbelievable. And you'd never, it'd be like driving into East Arcade and all of a sudden, or in a Pike, and all of a sudden, here's this great complex there. And it's just one dinky road in and out, just a county road. And I think it's actually in the town of Buckeye. We should talk to the county, but in a lot of places you'd go into, all the employees are complaining about something. You never hear anybody complaining. It's an impressive place, and boy, Presto Lake can get a deal with that Christmas morning.
They're really excited about it. Scott and I worked with Laura Fox, who's the new Vinny Esposito and Iparte Development. And, they wanted to do some outreach, so we had them come out and do a program in conjunction with us. And we invited several businesses. What the ESD wants to see is this whole consolidated funding application process. They're not happy with the number of applications that are coming from rural areas. So they wanted to do this outreach. We did that. Well, how many businesses we had, Scott? Like 20 or?
Yeah, that's right.
It came out for it. A lot of good questions. So we're hoping that this will generate some more applications coming from Wyoming County for that. I met with a potential buyer of the Ford garage in Arcade. He has that under contract. For those that don't know, the garage moved from Arcade to their existing facility in Springville. So there's a pretty good sized building that's been on the market for a while. The gentleman that has it under contract has an ATV business in Erie County and wants to move that out here. There obviously isn't any role for the IDA to play because they're not building anything on, and besides that, it's retail, so we can't help them out with that. So I just kind of led them around to talk about some financing options they might want to consider. So that's something that is happening. I also was asked to and agreed to sit on the local planning committee for Perry's downtown revitalization initiative, their $10 million project. So we've had a couple meetings with that. I anticipate several projects coming out of that will land on the agenda for the IDA, including several housing components with that, which is something that we're looking at very strongly in this county. So I'm still working with the guy in Arcade that wants to build or buy that Hummingbird toy factory, convert it into market rate apartments. He has it under contract as well. One of the things his top priority that he's working on is trying to get it certified with both New York State and the National Historic Places. Because once he does that, then when he does this project, there's some extremely attractive tax credits on the back end that will help reimburse him for his development efforts there. So he's working on that presently. I just want to give you an update on Genie Solar. The last time we met, the board authorized us to do a public hearing for the solar project in Perry. You heard the presentation that day where there was talk about having panels both in the village of Perry and the town of Perry. So subsequently, we learned that if that was the case, there was not any permitting that was done for the portion of the project that was going to be in the town of Perry. So when we followed up with the developer about that, there was a lot of confusion on there. And just yesterday, lo and behold, they sent us a new concept that shows all of it being in the village of Perry.
Wow.
So, I think we're getting closer now to, getting what the real project is, and it will be an exclusive project just to the village of Perry. So Rob has spent a large amount of time, working with a developer who, is having a difficult time weaving his way through the process of trying to get this thing where it needs to be. So,
Are they going to change the size of it?
No, the size will stay the same, they're just showing it only in the village, on the village property, not going over the town line.
And how many megawatts was that?
20.
24. I was gonna say, remember it was
Oh,
three
yeah,
and then
so-
four.
oh, that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's just,
We're kind of- yeah, maybe.
it's just a community solar project.
It's going on the village's property?
Actually, it's on a private owner's property, Mr. Golo. So that one got stuck, and we're trying to get it pushed out of the mud. But hopefully we'll get it headed in the right direction. Just want to give you an update. We're doing an update of our website, which is our main marketing tool that we have here at our disposal. We get a free upgrade from Civic Plus, which is our web designer. So as a team, we've been working on that. We also, all the IDAs in Finger Lake Creek sat down with a one-on-one with Ryan Silva, who's the Economic Development Council Executive Director. He's the guy that fights back against all this anti-IDA legislation that's always coming after us. So he gave us some updates, and he was on his way to meet with Senator Bronson, who, if you know Mr. Bronson's position on things, is not a big fan of IDAs as well. That leads me to my next thing. I had sent the board several different stories about a reporter from the Investigative Post talking about how our IDA incentives are taking away revenue stream from the school districts in Warsaw and Letchworth. With help from Kevin, work mostly done by Kevin, we responded in a very positive light on not just pilots, but overall what IDAs do. And it's not just pilots. It's, it's all the entrepreneurship stuff that we do. So the letter was very well done, and I shared that with the board as well. I also had the opportunity to meet face-to-face with each of the superintendents of the school districts after that whole thing kind of blew up. And they were not concerned at all. They didn't know, never mind at all.
I knew Warsaw would not be just,
So
meetings I can't.
the end of the story is, it didn't gain any traction. It did show up on a news report on WGRZ, but I never got contacted by anybody about it. I think regardless of how we would have responded to it, they were going to write the story that way they wanted to. They did cite a couple comments from our letter, but for the most part, it looks like it's DOAs. I just want to thank Kevin for his help on that. The last thing I wanted to mention, just it's not the IDA related, but I just wanted to let you know that the MPAID project that the Business Center is working on, we had our initial kickoff meeting with EPA 2 weeks ago. So that project is officially underway. We have Lavella is going to be our grant administrator on the project, and the first piece that we're going to be working on is the mandated involvement with the community engagement piece of it. So we have a group that agreed to be on a committee of community engagement partners. I got to replace a couple because some names dropped out, like the superintendent of our Pioneer School is no longer there, so I have to find a replacement for him. But anyways, we're off and running, and once we get the community engagement as the first step, then the next step is to begin drafting up the RFP for the actual demolition work. So we're excited about that. The village of Arcata is asking to come in next week and give us an update on where things are. And so we'll go from there. So that's my report.
So, Jim, along those lines, of course, my town board meeting was Monday night. And the town and the village are now working on a comprehensive plan. And of course, the focus is located in the village, like paths, it's the busiest road in Wyoming County, 39, 98. So I took the opportunity to talk about three things that really should be concerned, more of a concern than a bike path. And I don't have anything against a bike path, but we've got other issues. One is the town, in last year's budget, appropriated $56,000 to pay for a full-time EMT at the Arcade Fire Department during the day because we had trouble answering calls. In fact, Joe, we've had this discussion countywide. So it's an issue, so we did that. Another issue that came up, and it certainly isn't a public safety issue, but the Arcade Rural Cemetery is, for all intents and purposes, bankrupt. And when a cemetery goes bankrupt in the town takes over the operation. This is a big cemetery on a hill, and the town had to take it over. We had to buy the equipment, hire a guy, and that's okay. The other thing is the MK plan. You know, I've been on this IDA as long as you've been here, Jim. You know, I mean, we got started together, and this has been a problem since the first day. We spent a lot of time and money to do this, to get it cleaned up, and I think we're almost there. And you know, I guess there's been a statement that it would be flat by the end of the year. I made that statement at the board meeting. Maya Bohr was there. I'm sure it's probably in today's paper. I don't know. But at any rate, those are three things that I consider, from the taxpayer standpoint, pretty important. I hope, I think it's MRB is the engineering firm that's the consultant on developing the plan along with the Mayor Hauser. So I get it that people are interested in all this. And I got to tell you, I would bet that if you talk to the average person, taxpayer, they would say, I want somebody to come when I'm having a heart attack. And would like to clean up that mess up there. And, you know, for the people who have somebody buried in the cemetery, that's a big deal too, but not as big as the other two. So, we'll see what happens, but carry the message to the village board that you know, we're working on it. Have been. And
Oh, it's a long process.
it sure is. It's been 20 some years already. So, but you know, Jim, and for all of you, I have to go to a skin doctor on Young's Road in Williamsville. And 2 years ago, before the pandemic, there was a lot that was flat. Yeah, big sign out front, developer Paul Bliss. Paul Bliss is a native of Arcade, and he is a premier guy. So I went back 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Went back two weeks ago. Beautiful townhouses in this vacant lot. And the name of the lot, or the complex, is Faye Brook. His mother's name was Faye, so he named it after her. Beautiful. That's what I want to see at the Borden's plan, not subsidized housing. I've made that statement every time I talk about it, and there's no reason that we can't, you know, somebody can't make a deal with a guy like him, doesn't have to be him, and have something that, I mean, these things are beautiful. There are garages with them, and not just a thing you can drive a lawnmower in, but you can actually put a car in. So if that's in overlooking the creek, I think it would be a great spot.
And just so you know, we do have a designated developer.
I'm aware of that.
For a housing, for senior housing, market rate. I've already made it very clear that we're not looking at any subsidized housing. Well, at least in relation to that person. But there's other types of housing can go there.
And how often do we hear the leadership of this state say to us, we need to have market rate housing because there is no housing available? Nick?
Yes.
You're in the real estate business,
Yes.
right or wrong?
Absolutely right.
That's what we need, not more of this other stuff. So,
And I have to say, what we've got here, there's a waiting list.
Yeah, look at what you got down here. Unbelievable.
And it's kept seniors here and brought seniors in as
And they
well.
got this.
They do, yeah.
So that's my take. Sorry to take up the time.
No, if you're looking for something to reach out to for that type of project, I've got a couple of names.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with Mr. Bliss as well. I know him.
Wow. We all came from the same lair.
Yes, we did.
We don't have to talk about that, so.
So that's all I had for that executive director report.
Is there any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, the next meeting will be August 10th, 2:30. I will not be here, so somebody is going to have to sit in for the meeting. And so I'll make
Try to be sober.
You got 9 seconds?
Do the best I can.
To close the meeting.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So, second,
Or, I'm not supposed to say so, I make a motion to adjourn.
That's right. Taking a class on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is the TV off?
ended.
Oh,
There you go.